below the required fields. And I remember a couple of years ago I did a video about things that are a little bit irritating to you about being a metalhead. I'm going to kind of do a second part of that, so a little shorter, but there's there's 2 or 3 more things I think I'm going to discuss in that, and to add on to that. I made that first video 2 years ago, and I'm going to add some more. Anyways, thank you. Anyways, one thing is, it's a little bit sad, more about the bands than anything else. It's about not wanting to reissue albums that are out of print, which is a little unfortunate. I know that some bands, sometimes when there's a lot of demand for an underground or independent metal release or obscure one that was out of print for a while, to get reissued, because I know some people who online who actually work for metal record labels, and sometimes they actually get demand from some other metalheads about some possible suggestions about albums to re-release. And sometimes they've been able to do it, sometimes they haven't been so lucky. Sometimes when they weren't able to do it, it's because they weren't able to contact any member of the band. Like they might have looked up on Facebook or something like that to see what type of bands, see if they could find the members of the group, see if they get to go on, get the green light and reissue any albums. But in some cases, some of the bands actually refused to actually have the album reissued, even though they were able to get in contact with, some people were able to get in contact with bands who actually vocally say they don't want certain albums to be reissued. It's a little sad. I mean, I know in some cases, when albums went out of print, basically they might have been on some smaller labels and stuff, and I know in 1 or 2 of the cases is because like the label went under and they have the rights to masters of the album, so, and those labels are extinct, so yeah, in that case it's a little different. But some cases the bands have them and they won't give they won't actually let another label reissue them ever, which is pretty unfortunate if you ask me. But some bands not wanting to reissue albums, but yeah, in some cases, like I understood, not being able to find a band member or something like that, or just there was some very obscure label. Now I know this is probably not a metal specific exclusive thing. I'm sure this is similar to some other genres of music, but I've noticed this in the metal scene that some bands just didn't want to have their albums reissued, basically. So it may not be a metal specific thing, but something I've noticed in the metal scene. And number one, like I said in my other video, I'm not as irritated or upset sometimes when some people say, oh, you get upset to hear a band that they don't really feel is a metal band by their standards gets labeled such. This is something that's sort of like a little similar. Like I can understand like in most cases where a band I wouldn't really consider to be metal often gets labeled such. I know some people, it makes them livid to hear somebody call a certain band that they don't think is a metal band, but I can understand where it comes from in most cases, even if I don't necessarily agree with it. But here's something. I have come across plenty of people who particularly don't even know what death metal is. Like I know, I've come across some people who basically think any band heavier than, say, Linkin Park is death metal by their standards. I don't consider Linkin Park metal in the first place, obviously. Don't even consider them metal. But yeah, any band that's heavier than someone like that is a death metal band. Like every band that would be heavier than metal is a little closer to truth. Like I said, I don't consider Linkin Park metal, but that's another story. But basically, any band that's heavier than them, also definitely not every band that's heavier than them is metal. Metal is also something that's off the mark, but a little closer. But anything heavier than them is death metal is just laughable. And also, I've heard of a lot of people that think metal and screamo are interchangeable terms. Basically, like for example, I remember being at a bar one time, and basically they were playing rap music, and I decided to look into getting some metal on, and I saw Creator there in terms of songs they could play, so I decided to put a few Creator songs. I think I overheard somebody say, that's a screamo music. I think I overheard somebody mention something about screamo there. I'm like, jeez. Because yeah, screamo and metal are two obviously extremely different things, and Yet I've heard some people use the terms for them basically interchangeably, mainly people who are basically not into metal in the first place. That's just basically those are just basically things that are among the things, other things that do so. And I also mentioned the Metallica this, Metallica that thing, and this is one thing that basically I've heard basically for almost any band that is heavy. Is that Metallica? Even if it doesn't sound like Metallica. And I've heard people say, I've heard multiple people say that they've gotten this sounds like Metallica, just not as good. Even for some of the metal bands, it sounded the least like Metallica. Basically, some of the metal bands that are among the metal bands that basically, it wasn't just for, like, you know, in a lot of cases, there are a lot of metal bands that do sound a lot like some era of Metallica to some degree, plenty of them. But I've heard some people say it sounds like Metallica for some metal bands, or among the metal bands that sound the least like Metallica of any metal band ever, basically. I don't know if this is the same case for, like, other genres, too, like, or much so, like, say, or I don't know, prog rock, I'd say Rush is probably the poster band as a whole. I wonder if, say, people will give it sounds like Rush to basically almost any prog rock band, including those of whatever prog rock band sounds the least like Rush, for example. That's just another, you know, example. I don't know if it applies there, but for metal it does seem to apply in some cases. It seems like, yeah, there's just a few other things I thought I'd add to the list there. A few other things that came to mind. Just a few more that I just thought I'd add. And anyways, this is Required Fields. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.